let us consider for a moment the possibility that I could send a message to my teenage self, that I could, or even that I could create a dialogue between my current 22-year-old self, who is vastly more experienced and wise than, say, my 17-year-old self. What would I say? What would I want to express without, even considering things like, oh, you can't change the timeline, all that, what would I really want to get across? And that's a very good question, and it's something due to a ton of different reasons that I really don't want to go into right now, the things that have happened and stuff like that. It's something that I've kind of considered over the past couple days, and it's a very interesting discussion, and I wanted to share it with you. So, for me, what I would be sharing would be the concept that I am, me now, 22-year-old Adam, am not the same person as 17-year-old Adam or 18-year-old Adam. And while I have pretty much the exact same realm of interests, hobbies, professional aspirations, overall mindsets, I'm a drastically different person, and my life is in a drastically different place. And I would want to convey that 17-year-old me needs to not take life so seriously, that I'm going to be a drastically different person, that nobody's going to take me quite as seriously as I was taking myself or my life, and that I need to kick back a little bit more and quit being so uptight and just enjoy the moment. That's something I never did throughout high school. That's not something, it's something I did when playing Halo 3 with friends on Xbox Live. That was the only time I could really let go. That was it. The rest of the time, I was stressing out too much about school, working too hard on a very crappy attempt at a YouTube channel at the time, and taking it way too seriously, and stressing way too much about relationships that ended up meaning nothing. Like, most of these relationships that I stressed out the most about, I don't even have anymore. I don't even have, the friendships, the, opposite gender romantic relationships. I don't have any of that. None of those are with me today. I spent so much of my life, driving myself insane, driving myself to dark, depressive times, to wanting to hurt myself, to just simply being too stressed out to sleep enough or focus on calculus homework, which, by the way, also didn't matter as much as it should have, but that would be a message to my parents and not myself. But I did all that for relationships that did not matter. Of course, at the time, I thought they were the most important things in the world. I thought that a couple specific relationships were going to be my relationships for the rest of my life. That was easy. That was an easy belief to fall into at the time, but a completely unrealistic one by, 2 years later. And I was in such a weird place where I was so desperate to connect to other people, to find someone that I wanted, that I could truly connect with and interact with on a deep, emotional, somewhat romantic, but at the same time it could be totally platonic, just intimate level. But that desperation got me so far stuck in my own head that upon reflecting, I completely passed up those connections that I actually already had right in front of me. From friends, from romantic partners, from people who probably would have been romantic partners, had I paid a little more attention and just let go a little bit more, or escaped this madness that is my head. Now, that's big talk coming from me right now, as I'm still very much stuck in my head 24/7, and I'm still very much a shut-in. In fact, I may be more of a shut-in than I was in high school, in that I have no obligatory, getting out of the house or social obligation, because I now live at home alone, sometimes with Kara, and I work from home, the same place that I play video games. And so 90% of my time I spent in this exact view, sitting in this corner, working on the computer, or somewhere else in this living room, working on stuff or playing video games or playing with toys like I'm 5. That's what I'm into. I'm not going to judge myself for that, and I am not going to pay attention to other people's judgments of that either. It's just an interesting observation to go with everything else. I did just do a couple videos today on toys and Pokemon cards, so it's kind of funny that, oh, I'm so much more mature than I used to be, but here I am playing with Pokemon cards and action figures. But hey, It's for YouTube. It's what I want to do. I'm going to be okay with it. But I'm not necessarily in, maybe I was here in high school and I've come up to here now. I'm not all the way, I'm not at 100% who I should be or the best that I could be, but I'm damn well a lot better. And I'm a hell of a lot better. And a lot of that came from a pretty hellish time during my first year of, basically from senior year of high school through the end of my first year of college was just a big blur of stress, frustration, pain, anger, depression, fights, just figuring out who the hell I am, and then learning to let go and just not give a shit for a little while and just be me. And I did that. I was me. I figured out who me was, and that led to millions of other things happening and falling into place in just the right way over the course of the next couple years. I'm now a college graduate. It's now been 2016, 2011. It's now been about 5 years. 5 years in May since I graduated high school. At that point in high school, my senior year of high school, I was still convinced that the relationship that I was fighting for, that I was dealing with abuse and just horrible things, was worth it because that was going to be the rest of my life somehow. Because somehow what decisions I made right there in my 17-year-old body were the decisions that were going to stick for the rest of my life. And they weren't in any aspect. I'm not with the person that I was with. I don't have the same circle of friends that I have. YouTube-wise, I'm not doing the same kind of channel that I thought I'd be doing full-time, moving forward forever. That was clearly not even working out in the first place. I'm not playing the same kinds of games. I'm not going to the same kind of social events. I'm not eating the same kind of food. Frankly, the strongest constant in my life from high school is the fact that I still drink Sunkist. And no, that's not a sponsorship. I really wish it was, because I've been drinking Sunkist for way too long, and it's probably killing me from the inside. Now, granted, for most of high school, when I was barely sleeping and I had a body that could tolerate it, that's pretty much all I drank. I just drank Sunkist soda, caffeinated as hell. People thought I was a pothead because my eyes were dilated or bloodshot all the time because I never slept. I was always staring at a computer, and I was always over-caffeinated because that's what I wanted to do with my life, apparently. And now I only have like a cup or two a day at most. And I drink a lot of water, which I never really wanted to do back then. So no, I'm not going to go back and tell myself to take care of myself better because, frankly, I still wish I was 17. I still wish I had the body of my 17-year-old self. Now, granted, I would have been quite a bit smaller and not as physically mature to do other adult things, but I could do a lot. I could eat a lot more without it affecting me. I always used to think that was stupid stuff. Like, food doesn't affect you differently when you get older. What kind of crap is that? Just take care of yourself, even though I wasn't taking care of myself. But I can't drink the same amount of soda that I used to. I can't eat the same kind of stuff that I used to. I can't go as much without sleeping as I used to. So, yeah, when you're 17 and you can handle it, as long as you're not doing hardcore narcotic drugs or drinking or that kind of thing, or smoking pretty much anything, but definitely smoking cigarettes, live your life. Like, don't give a shit about that stuff when you're 17. Just, you can handle it, deal with it. And so I'm not going to change that about myself, but it's a matter of how I approached life and how seriously I took it, because there was no reason to take it seriously. And it's always funny. Like, even now, like I'm explaining this now, and there's going to be a point in time in the future where something hits me weird and I'm going to regret like not having lived in the moment enough. Or frankly, maybe it's been this entire past year in which I graduated college, moved out, and am now living on my own. Maybe something will come up between now and then that'll be like, oh, I wish I would have just spent more time on that, just enjoying life. And I'm sure it'll come up because I always do this. And this hit me especially hard in the middle of when all this crap post-high school and in high school was hitting me, in that suddenly it was graduation. And my mom was driving me home and just trying to make me make plans for prom and for graduation. And I just fucking broke down and cried in the car, and she ended up driving around the block so we could talk about it and stuff. But like, suddenly it was all over. I spent so much time like here that I didn't spend enough time here, and it was all over. It was gone. Like, my high school career was gone, and I only had brief memories of the time I actually spent in it. because I spent so much time in here instead of in high school. So I had memories from freshman year when I was like, everything was brand new and everything was exciting and it was all this craziness where I was like, whoa, high school's fucking great. And the sports events I went to and stuff like that. And then like sophomore and junior year, I don't really remember much at all. And then a lot of what I remember about that stuff from high school or from senior year was the really bad stuff with friends and bad romantic encounters and things like that, taking things way too seriously. And it hits me all the time. It's just like I didn't spend enough time outside of my own head to actually fucking enjoy my life. And that's still something that I'm afraid and I'm certain will probably happen to me in the future, as I'm going to be on my deathbed in 40 to hopefully way longer years. I'm going to be on my deathbed and just be like, well, shit, this is the end of my life. This is all I've got. I'm not going to approach death in a, okay, I've lived a good life, it's time for it to be over, I'm cool with that kind of approach. I wish I could. Like I've always admired that approach, but I can't do that because I'm going to realize that, shit, everything I could have ever done is over. The end of my life is here, and I spent most of it up here. So, that's what I would tell my 17-year-old self. And I'm hoping I'm making steps to change that. I've obviously come very far from then, especially to even be self-aware enough to tell myself this now. And that's another irony, is that a lot of this comes from the fact that, despite the fact that I've spent a lot of my life super self-centered and self-absorbed in my own head, I was not self-aware in the slightest. I was completely oblivious to like self-awareness. Like I was just didn't have a clue. But obviously I've come decently to be self-aware enough to be able to create this, obviously there's not a real dialogue with myself 5 or 6 years ago now, but that math does not add up. Like 4 or 5 years ago, I guess, I don't know, 17 to now. But to be able to do this, obviously I've come a long way in terms of self-awareness and understanding, but I still have steps to go. And honestly, like, that's what a lot of this whole vlog channel's been about. And I do get wrapped up in like work a lot, and so I don't get to always update it as live and stuff as I can. But frankly, I think that's a good step. Like with other things, if I were taking my usual approach, I'd obsess over making sure I got the videos edited and uploaded, and I'd probably alter how we did the vlogs to just make sure I could be consistent with it. But that's not what matters. What matters is the actual moments that I'm living in. The vlogs are just secondary. The vlogs are just to share with you guys and to, just run another channel. That's not what's important. What's important is the actual life moments that the vlogs are about. And that's what I end up putting the focus on. And that is the approach I need to be taking. And so I'm quite proud of myself for achieving that. And that's also what some of the Throwback Thursday kind of archival stuff is about, is I never saved a lot of that stuff. I always cared about myself now and moving forward. I was always future focused, anxiety driven, just whatever's in the future is what matters, and it's not cool. And so I got rid of a lot of stuff that I can't get back. Journals, diaries, photos, the video clips from these tapes that I'm hoping I'll be able to salvage. And so I'm doing some Throwback Thursday stuff just so it's up there, so I have like a video scrapbook of my life so I don't forget it. And so I remember to live in the moment, because I never did back then. And now I'm having to look back at videos to even remember like what happened in my life. And that's kind of depressing. And so I'm hoping I can continue this moving forward. And that's been part of my motivation for even wanting to start a family in the first place with Kara and to like build a family. That's not something I cared about back then. That was when I was 17. Now, granted, frankly, nobody should be super focused at age 17 about building a family, because that just should not be your current like main goal at 17 years old. I'm sorry, but that you got so much ahead of you in life beyond that. But thinking forward, I never thought that would be what I wanted, because I was so absorbed in my brain that I wanted to, I was all focused on what I was going to do for work, for career, for even relationships outside of, building a family, but romantic relationships. It was all about doing stuff that involved whatever my brain wanted and not building a family. And I desperately hope when I build a family, I'll be able to live in the moment. But that's something that I think will help like force me into it, because I'm not going to be able to just like pretend I don't have a family and stick in my own head. I'm going to have to be forced to sit there and hold a baby while it cries at night and just think about how much I'm happy to be a father or whatever happens at the time. And so oddly enough, that's something that kept me from wanting a family at one point in life, has been something that made me want to have a family. And that was a lot. I've been writing a lot this week, and like I said, I've had a lot of weird stuff hit me emotionally and mentally in a lot of weird ways. And so I've done a lot of personal writing this weekend, but my hands are already like aching a ton because I've done a lot of work today to catch up because I spent the past 2 days of the weekend doing no work and I'm behind on work. So today's been a workaholic day, so my hands are aching like hell. I'm getting a power ball soon, which is a like wrist workout ball of sorts that should help strengthen some of this stuff and help me deal with some of my tendon and joint issues. But I wanted to get some thoughts out, and I wanted to do it in a way that I could share it publicly, because the writing is not going to be something I'll be able to share publicly, but I wanted to get this out. So if you watched it this far, leave me a like, leave me a comment down below with what you think or what you would tell your younger self. If you are 17 years old, maybe go back, or maybe, what would you tell your older self? Like, what would you want your older self to remember or think about you now? Or if you're around my age, what would you tell your younger self? Let me know in the comment section down below, or make a response video if you're a YouTuber as well. I'm going to go get some water now and calm my aching throat. Thank you so much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe. We'll see you in a future vlog. Let me know if you want to see more discussion-y kind of things like these. This was a lot of fun. It went on way longer than I expected, but it felt really fucking good.